Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 16 of Rise Up the Podcast. Scotty Raj, Greg Beast, Dan Seible here. How are we doing, fellas? I haven't talked to you guys since before Thanksgiving. Hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving with your families. Give me an update. What's going on?
I got to see my father. I ran a clinic down in Houston also, which is always great. Pretty good, man. Like I said, every time I go down there, I feel like I'm like the Grim Reaper. It fucking rains. It rained. It was beautiful. My dad said it was 74 sunny before I got there. I show up that day. It's fucking monsoon. I'm like, every time I get there.
He's lying. He just wants you to feel like shit.
No, dude, I think it is me. I think
dad does.
I'm Satan. I don't think I'm Satan. So it's all good. It's all good, but we had a great dinner. The big guy pulled off his own feast. He was on his own, so my stepmother wasn't there, so he had to do the whole thing for me and my boy Gunner, and he fucking did a good job, so we were happy. We ate well.
Yeah, man. Yes, Papa Rig. I had a great Thanksgiving, but we just had our Face Off Academy National Showcase this past weekend, and it was our 10-year anniversary, and it was awesome. It was awesome.
Congrats on that.
We had a blast. So yeah, it was a good time. Shout out to Aaron Pressman, the 2022 national champion from Chicago.
Wow.
So yeah, good weekend. I'm ready to talk some laps with you guys. Get back after. I miss you.
Hey, Seems, before we talk about any laps, I got to tell you, I've been for the last probably 2 days straight. I've been binge watching Amazon Prime, like Premier League. I've never been a soccer guy. Still,
I was just gonna say World Cup.
I think I'm all in on just Premier League soccer. I think we're gonna choose a team. Watching the fans, I got to go over there. I got to go to England. I want to choose like a whatever.
You fit right in.
Yeah, I know. So
let's go over there together,
dude. No, that would be phenomenal. Do a little lacrosse clinic and then go to a soccer game, dude.
Let's be hooligans.
You just got to remember they call it football over there.
I gotta say football. If I say soccer,
if Scotty and I walk in there calling it soccer, guess what it is that day?
It might be. Greg,
hey, guess what? Hooligans, we're coming. And you have never beaten the USA in a World Cup match, so we get to call it soccer.
Greg, I'm telling you right now, dude, I watched this little drunk guy. Literally, it was like a corner kick miss, and this guy just went ham in the stands. I was like,
fun World Cup story. Fun World Cup story. So during the USA-England match, I was back home in Springfield for my 20-year high school reunion, and I was at the bar. And everybody is, it's packed. Everyone's cheering for USA. But I bet $500 on a draw.
No way.
And Daddy was trying to make some money. So every time they kicked the ball over the net, I was like, yeah!
Shit.
It ended in a tie, and I was buying shots for everybody.
What was that payout?
I would know.
What was that payout?
$2,500.
Let's go.
Wow.
Let's go. It's called gambling, son.
To gamble on a draw with the favorite fucking playing us, that's good.
No, we call that
England,
sports investing. That's not gambling.
England always screws up in the World Cup. They never play as well as everybody thinks they're going to. Ever.
Exactly.
So then on top of the fact that their fans are absolute nuts, so there's that pressure, and you're playing the team and the country that is undefeated in world wars. That's a lot of – all the pressure was on their side, in my opinion.
I don't even know if we can put this on there. God damn, I don't even know if to get posted.
What are they going to do? They going to start another war? We'll beat them again.
I mean,
the Euro is dying right now. We just lost anybody from England who's listening is gone now. But
I'll tell you what, I was home for Thanksgiving as well, watching the World Cup. And with my mom, and she'd be like, "Why are you watching soccer? You don't like it?" I'm like, "Mom, it's the World Cup. Like everyone's watching." And then it's like, question. It's 20Q. It's like, why is the scoreboard counting up? Like, why are they doing this? Like, I'm like, "Mom, just watch. Dude,
I thought lacrosse fans were loyal fans. Because, like I said, 30 years, you get those crazy Wings fans painting their faces. Like,
there's nothing like soccer fans.
And they're playing for 0-0 draws. I'm saying 0-0 draws, penalty kicks, nothing, and they're still going nuts. It's like,
dude, the closest thing to a European soccer fan that we have is a college football fan that actually went to the school. That's the closest.
Like I've seen I feel like a diehard,
or like a family that lives in Happy Valley.
Like my family.
Yeah.
I'm like third generation Penn State.
Yeah.
Absolutely can't even watch the games. I have to DVR them, and then if they win, I go back and watch the game. That's how much I care.
Yeah.
Soccer fans are nuts.
And I love how like pumped everyone's getting for the World Cup because like I don't know, we're not the biggest soccer fans. At least my group of friends. I'll tell you what. On Saturday, I came back from Thanksgiving. I had a wedding. My girlfriend's cousin was getting married, and my girlfriend was in the wedding, so she was up and out at 7 a.m. doing hair and makeup. So I had time and space. And the wedding was in New York. So I was in New York City. And the wedding was in New York City. And so I get up and I go to a bar with a bunch of my buddies at 10 a.m. for the USA Netherlands game and just had a full on day. It was a blast.
How'd you show up to that wedding?
I was chilling. I paced myself, mixing a water here and there. Get a good hearty meal in. Come on.
It also helped that USA got pumped. If USA won that match, you would have showed up pretty big.
You would have not been to that wedding, buddy. You would have fucked that up.
Yeah. No, the funny thing about all of that is I liken it. Like, this is why I don't watch UFC matches in public anymore, because I played soccer my whole life until I got to college. And I watch the matches, and people who haven't watched a single soccer match in 8 years are sitting there at this bar going, "Oh, he should just kick it to the middle."
It's the ball.
You're all soccer fans now.
Shoot.
Yeah. And they're like, "Oh, I can't believe they tied that team." You're like, you can't believe it? Or you don't know what you're talking about. Same thing, you go to UFC, Anderson Silva's fighting, you're like, "Oh, he should, but what should he do again?" I'm sorry, you're watching one of the best world fighters in the world, a guy who took a karate class.
I know, dude. I'm thinking about listen, so we base our PLL's based, we'll write it back into PLL. The PLL's based on the MLS model. So if our fans out there don't know why we can talk a little soccer is, I know we're trying to grow this game, but also the fan base, everything like that. But what we have to realize is even the USA soccer model is 20 years to 25 years old professionally. So if you look on the salaries, right? I was looking at the salary disparity. Yes, we'll get, but we're getting used goods. This is actually a great retirement plan for the European soccer guys. They come over and they get paid $10 million, and they're at the end of their career.
Dude, NYCFC might lock up Messi for the end of his career.
I heard he's going to Miami.
It's an incredible model for these guys to play in, because you're like, dude, Wayne Rooney played for a team out here. It was making $10 million, and he was probably on one leg. And I'm like, that is my only problem with us, is I feel like we're getting the scraps. But you got to see it. There's a $10 million guy, and then there's a guy making 25 to not 25, probably 70,000, 70 to 100. The rookie guys that are not making the rosters yet.
Dude, I love MLS soccer. I'm a big NYCFC fan. My son and I, they're building a new stadium in Queens soon. I love watching MLS soccer because they're not quite as good as Premier. Yeah. So there's a lot more unexpected action. So it's a lot of fun. But you bring something interesting when we talk about the PLL and the growth of lacrosse compared to the MLS model. The MLS used to be a single entity league, just like the MLS was. And then they rebranded. And when they rebranded, they opened up into a franchise model. And I remember when LA Galaxy brought over Beckham, and that kind of started setting the trend. And now you're seeing these teams, they not only do they have the MLS, but they have farm leagues, farm teams now. And LA has two full franchises, two separate, LAFC and Los Angeles Galaxy. LAFC just won it the whole thing this year, I think. Did they? Oh, no, Philly did. Yeah, Philly won the whole. Philly lost. Philly lost. That's right, in an upset. But you're right. At the beginning, not a ton of money, a single entity model. You have to buy your time. Then they start the franchise model, and the PLL's taken that to that next level. And hopefully we'll get.
So what you see in that model coming from that is also, that's a great point you bring up, the farm system. They call it, I think in the overseas, in the Premier League, they call it the academies, right? They run a Manchester United academy where they'll bring in 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 12-year-olds to start playing for that team. Now, what I wonder is that sustainable? I know the PLL runs an academy. I know people are starting to get more invested into it. We're looking.
Yeah, that's a clinic-based model. I'm talking
now imagine
actual teams.
Imagine like a triple A, double A,
like minor league baseball.
I'm saying imagine it wasn't that, and imagine every PLL club team had like a club team. Every PLL pro team had a club team, and now those kids are playing from 15, 16, 17. They go to college, but now they're still their rights are to that club.
Now ULAX becomes
Yeah.
PLL.
Yeah.
It's already a shit show.
Copyright that idea, Scotty. Hold on to. Maybe we'll sell it to the Rambo.
I need to have some cash.
But I hope you all liked our little dive into the soccer world.
Yeah.
We're fired up about the World Cup, and Scotty's fired up about his show that he's watching. But we have an action-packed episode for you guys. We have a big interview with our buddy Matt Rambo. He was so much fun to talk to. He has such a great perspective on the game. And then we got our final breakdowns of the off-season free agency with the Whipsnakes as well as the Cannons. And then finally, we'll talk about some news and updates. I know, the NLL started. So let's kick it off. Actually, excuse me. Before we kick it off, let me shout out our sponsors. I know it's Christmas time. It's running a little last minute, but get your gifts in. Get your family some matching Rowback Gitch. They got some sweet sweatshirts. They got some great golf shirts. We're always rocking them. Make sure you use promo code RISEUP20. And then we like to shout out our other sponsor.
Danny, sorry, real quick. That code just got $250 off my buddy's order. I mean, he used that code. That code is legit. That code is taking big
money.
Hey man, Sibes on a roll. Let's let him do it.
Yeah, saving. Scotty, if you need any Christmas gifts, make sure you use that code so you can save some money so you can take your girl out on a nice date.
All right. Now, go back to your thing.
Our other presenting sponsor we'd love to shout out is Level Select CBD. We're all using it. We love it. It's formulated with premium CBD and complementary active ingredients to deliver results that you can feel. Level Select produces their own premium quality CBD and can deliver the best product to you for the best prices. And it's all backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. We've talked about it. We love the Sleep Aid one that has melatonin in it. They have also one with vitamin C, and then also some with energy and a little kick off to your day. We love it. Use promo code RISE20 to get 20% off your order of Level Select CBD. And then just one final shout out for my boys here, Scotty with his 42 Performance LLC. I know he was down in Houston building down there, laying down the bricks. And then Greg with his Face Off Academy celebrating the 10-year. You guys are the best. I mean, you guys are crushing it. We love it.
Man, I needed that today, brother.
You didn't have to do that. Appreciate that, brother.
Of course, I got you guys. And then one final housekeeping. We'd love to say that, we're getting ready to gearing up for our 2023 sponsors. If you want to be involved in our show or you know anybody that could benefit, mutually beneficial relationship, please shoot us a DM and we'll get something cooked up.
Hey, Saj, what hat is that? I love it.
Movember.
Oh yeah, baby.
I need one of those.
So,
can I donate to Movember and get that?
Yeah, please get rid of that Let's Be Friends hat.
Where do I? Yes, let's be friends. Where do I order that?
You might be able to get one off the Movember website, but they send it to me for my efforts in November.
You know where you get this hat? Go on TorchPro, grab that hat.
Absolutely.
I'll go to Mocember.com and crush that.
All right, guys, let's kick it off to the news and updates. We have the NLL that started this week. There's Inside Lacrosse is releasing the top 50. Some of the college lacrosse lines came out. Let's start with the NLL. Did you guys tune into any of those games? I saw some pretty cool highlights. I didn't catch any of the games, but I definitely want to start tuning in a little bit more to the NLL this year.
Blaze Reed had 5 goals.
I saw that.
And you know what? They were almost the only goals scored for the Wings, too.
It's fucking amazing. That guy amazes me.
He's amazing.
He might be, as an athlete, I don't care what you say about his body, whatever you want to say about him. The guy produces at both levels of the game at the highest level, and he does it.
Are you kidding me? What are you going to say about Blaze Reardon's body? He is a finely tuned athletic machine. Look at that guy.
He's a fucking
So I pay attention to the NLL when I can because I love indoor. But it's just tough for me to keep up with it with 2 little rugrats. But I always try to watch the games where my fellow Face-Off Academy coaches are playing. And there was a civil war going on with literally the 2 best face-off guys in the whole league, Trevor Baptiste and Jake Withers, and they killed each other. They were pretty even, but dude, Halifax.
Couple ice bags for both of them, you think?
Yo, I texted both of them afterwards. They were like, dude. Yo, the first game, I don't know how it was for goalies or attackmen, but like for faceoff guys, the first game of any season, you always are like your body is re-shocked at how much of a beating you take. And I used to remember coming home, ice bags all over me after the first game every year, and like it would take like 4 days for those welts to go away. Halfway through the season, you're calloused over. You don't feel that shit anymore.
Right.
But Halifax is making a run at it this year, dude. They are loaded.
Cody Jamieson, right?
Yeah.
He's still, I mean, I played with him in Toronto. That dude, I mean, he's a tank.
Dude, they are loaded. And, I'm excited to see what they do this year because I love Wiz. Charlie LaGrusa is a good friend too. He's close-knit with them. I think that they're looking really, really good. And I honestly think they have the best unis in the whole league.
And being kind of like Long Island biased because I used to go to the games at the Coliseum. We used to watch Sal Licasio, Gordon Purdy, all those guys. Me and my dad would go every weekend, get a thing of curly fries. But watching those like old teams back in the day,
New York Saints.
I want to see the New York Saints, man. I want to see the New York was it
Riptide.
The Riptide. Titans.
Come on. You guys are dating yourself.
You're not gonna
No offense. I freaking refuse to call them the Riptide.
I know.
There's an infinite amount of names they could have used, and they used a team that was already an MLL team. Dude, Titans was sick. The Saints. Dude, anything. Anything but the Lizard.
With the St. Bernard. The St. Bernard was the
that logo was sick.
It was sick.
I'll tell you what, the Riptide had one of the best deals going. You get 2 tickets, it comes with 2 soft drinks and 2 hot dogs for $25, and I'll get my ass out to the Coliseum.
Sides is all over Groupon looking at NLL shit.
How many beers did that come with for you?
0. I mean, you get the soft drinks, and you get the base level in before you start cranking the 24-ounce Bud Light.
And then you walk across the street. You go to McKeeb's Penny Beers. Just hammer it.
Wow.
Yeah, and then you pass out at Nassau Coliseum. Nassau Community College.
Yeah. We can't call it Nassau Coliseum. Is it still Nassau Coliseum?
Yeah.
It's still Nassau Coliseum, right?
It's the Coliseum in Nassau, so yeah.
I don't think they play at the UBS Stadium. That's something.
But listen, I'm looking for them to have success. I just feel like new teams in that league, it's hard to battle some of the established ownership because some of those teams are ran so well. Like some of those, like Denver's ran well. I mean, Colorado. Those teams are ran like really good franchises.
Well, a lot of hockey owners also invested in these franchises, which makes sense.
Right.
I remember growing up, anybody who had season tickets for the Flyers would get Wings tickets with their package. So all the Flyers fans would go to Wings games on Friday nights, and all the high school kids would be in the parking lot with their iced teas, getting ready to go in there too. And that was what you did in Delco and Philly on Friday nights as you went to Wings games. It was the shit.
Yeah, no, we're going to keep an eye on it. I know we talked to Matt about his Wings team, and he's pumped up for his trip out to Vegas. I'm excited to see how that Vegas team takes off. I'm sure they're going to get a crowd.
They're my favorite team right now.
They have so many people coming in every weekend. But we'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep you guys updated. We'll get some guys on the show that can talk a little bit more educated on the topic. I'd say some people that live and breathe NLL for our listeners out there. And then, guys, just switching gears a little bit. I know the PLL is releasing their annual top 50 list. If you guys want to touch on this a little bit, I know it's voted on by the players, correct? And I think we're about halfway there at this point of the recording. It's nice to see some guys get recognition, but take much validity in it. How does it work?
I never took any validity. I think it's pretty. Yeah, you can tell based on, I guess, who had a good season or so, but like it usually tells you who's popular on their own teams, and how, because we all would always get those emails like, hey, fill this out. And you would be able to tell, you're like, dude, I'm not going to sit here and name 50 guys.
Right.
I got work to do.
So they would have you, it wasn't like a Google sheet that you could just click.
No, dude. Well, I don't know how they do it now, but the MLL, that's how they did it.
Right.
And nobody filled it out. So the guys who are at the top, you're like, okay, their team, that's the team where the most guys filled it out. I never put any stock in it. I think it's cute because I think it's something that gives you a little bit of bandwidth on social to keep people talking. But I'm not going to, I don't know any kids that I coach or anybody who's a fan is going to be like, oh my God, Trevor's up to number 3. Like, it's like, yo, he was MVP last year.
Yeah.
Like, no,
It's also like position stuff too. Like I always think goalies, and we're biased probably, but we just
Hey, Blazers rating number 1.
Yeah, Blazer should be. I think every kid's like a household name now. Kids are saying, I want to be like Blaze Reardon, which is awesome. I also think, listen, it's just a tough thing because like you kind of know the names. It's good for those guys that are in that 30 to 20 range that are getting bumped up a little bit.
I was just going to say, the most recent rankings, I think Charlie Bertrand was 28, and I think that's fucking awesome. Like, he had such
I will say this, Sibes, is it shows you how respected guys are on their teams, for sure.
Yeah, and we gassed him up all year long, how important he was for the Redwoods. So it's great seeing his peers recognize that.
Big time future for him.
Totally. And he's killing it in the box game too. So it's cool seeing him, watching him play. Last kind of housekeeping for news and updates, college lacrosse. I mean, it's right around the corner. I'm excited for this. We got some lines that came out. The favorite to win the national championship is Maryland. I mean, they were a wagon last year, undefeated, 18-0. And then I think that's interesting. The second team with the best odds to win is Notre Dame, who didn't even make the tournament last year, which was quite the snub. A lot of people were upset that they got ripped. So I'm excited for the college season.
Yeah, listen, at Notre Dame, the expectation we have there is obviously based on, we have to do so. I'm one of those people too. I didn't win a national championship. We just got right to the cusp of it. I know as an alumni, it would be nice to see it happen. I think we put a lot of recruiting. Our recruits are top notch. Like, I don't think we had an ACC style defenseman when I was there, or those kind of athletes, and we built that, right? So, I mean, to get that, I think they just got the transfer from Chris Fake, right?
Yep.
I mean, that kid looks like Tucker Durkin 2.0. I mean, Tucker, you are the GOAT, but he is built like a freaking shithouse.
Dude, what's insane is I played against Chris Fake in college. Like, he's still there.
He's 30?
He's still there. And like, I've been out of college for a little bit now.
How old is he?
I think a lot of these guys, I mean, Notre Dame is loaded. And I think I think them being second on that list is absolutely correct.
So we never, when I was there, I'm not going to go too much on a tangent, but we never took transfers. It wasn't like our thing.
Different world now, though, man.
Right? Because, like, he didn't even try to get him, because he was like, I don't know if the academics will fit. And B, I mean, I think he learned after I graduated, if I fit, we could probably get some guys in from Yale to come. So I think, listen, it's just a different time. And now, like you said, Greg, you could do that. Listen, if you, with that extra year guy, if you could get a good player, man, go.
Well, you have to, because the transfer portal is part of your recruiting now. It's a part of recruiting, and the blanket waiver that the NCAA gave in 2020, like, just totally screwed everything up for years.
The ripple effects is insane.
And it was totally a typical NCAA move, just lazy bullshit. Absolutely, just like, 10 people are going to yell at us. Let's fuck over 7,000 people. But because of that, you have a lot of kids who had an extra year eligibility. And, my school only allows you to stay here if you're this major or if you're this kind of master's degree or whatever. So it gives kids that extra year, and there's a lot of movement. Ohio State crushed the transfer portal this year. They added like 3 All-Americans.
I mean, that's not a hard sell. Like I said, like, there's some schools, Notre Dame, Ohio State. So any of the big, like, I'm still amazed at Michigan at how the fuck they just aren't.
That's not a hard sell either, man. I
don't know. I'm saying, like, they should be up in the top 10 by now. The way their facilities.
You got to give it time, though, man. You're talking about. I mean, that's a serious build. They were out of nowhere. They were a club team still not that long ago.
I was at Marquette. I'm going to fight on this. I'm going to fight on this, though.
They fumbled a little bit off the bat, I think, keeping the club coach and not maybe going for a big name that they could have.
Yes, but I respect everybody involved with making that decision. Because he's the one who got them.
John Paul got that thing up and running. So
and John used to even joke. He'd be like, "Wow, I really did a lot of work to lose my job." And you know what?
He fundraised that whole thing. Right. He fundraised from.
He's still a diehard Michigan fan, and it's awesome. So, but yeah, I think college season coming along. Obviously, the hype train's there. The hype train for the Syracuse freshmen.
I was just going to say.
Yeah.
I was just talking to Paul LaMonica. Shout out to my boy Paul LaMonica from Scarsdale, who he made the team as a walk-on for their face-off position.
Hell yeah.
And he was talking about how I was asking, I was like, how's Joey doing? Because, Joey Spallina Joe was my coach. His dad was my coach at the Lizards. Joey grew up at Lizards games, ripping corners by himself in corner practice. He's like, dude, Joey's Joey. He's exactly who we thought he was going to be. And
Good.
He's like, but we have enough seasoned vets where we don't need Joey Spallina to come in as a freshman and take over a game. And I think the people don't understand because they see the highlights of the behind the back shit. Joey's vision is phenomenal. And if you give him the quarterback keys, he is going to find people. He's got great vision. And I just talked to Coach Petro yesterday about, a kid, and you can feel the energy in his voice. And when Coach Petro has that energy going, something's cooking.
You got two head coaches there, right? I mean, you got two guys that could at any time could defer. Like it's
Gary is very much a manager, it seems, based on what I've told from the kids. So like he sits back, he analyzes, and Petro is very much the aggressive mouthpiece that kids follow.
You want to hear?
It seems to be a good team up right there.
You guys, before we move on, I know we're talking, but you want to hear a good Gary Gates story real quick? He was my coach he was my coach for the Toronto Nationals. Him and Reggie Thorpe, 2 years.
Oh, two beauties.
Dude, Gary Gate. We go into a halftime. Kevin Crowley's rookie year. He's the next Canadian great. Got everything. He goes yelling at him. He just dropped. I've never seen him yell. He goes, Kevin, you got to split the double team, fake the BTB, and bury it with a twister. And Kevin's looking at him like, hey, Gary, I'm not you, brother. I'm like, yeah, he's got right,
You just got to truck stick everyone and air gate it. He's like, dude, you did that. That's why you're you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like I mentioned, I'm so pumped. I can't wait. I hope we do some sort of pick 'em like we did for the PLL. Maybe I can win again. Probably going to win again. But we can do our national championship picks, and we'll give a more in-depth preview of the college season as it gets a little bit closer. Just a reminder, we'll do that at the new year. We'll get back to our weekly episode cadence. We're super excited. And before we get into our interview with Matt Rambo, and then after that, we'll get into our off-season moves for the Whipsnakes and Cannons. I want to give the floor to Greg. He shouted out my hat for Movember. I talked about this a few episodes ago, how I'm so passionate about the Movember Foundation, who raises funds for men's health awareness and just men's health in general. And I want to give the floor to Greg, who has something to talk about.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. So this past weekend, Gordon Corsetti, who was one of the heads of officials education at USA Lacrosse, phenomenal human being, someone that anybody who ever met Gordon respected, loved, immediately liked him. He was one of the most likable people you could ever meet. Gordon struggled with depression for a very long time. And instead of dealing with it just himself, Gordon decided to put it on a public display and talk about it and help other people along the way. And I don't know exactly the number of how many people he saved along that way. And I don't know how many people are going to be saved because of him. But unfortunately, we lost Gordon on Friday. And he was just a warm, kind human being. And somebody that if you have ever met him for more than 10 seconds, you know that he was genuine and loved. And, we're going to miss you, Gordon. So if you're listening, buddy, we love you. And thank you for just touching so many lives while you were here.
Yeah. I mean, Greg, he's going to change a lot of lives. I know he did. I think this is a big thing for us going through. And like I said, this is like young kids now dealing with it. Mental health is no joke. I can tell you personally, I've been through a little bit of my own stuff. I would call it anxiety and depression. I used to be able to work it out in the gym and also get the fix with playing. And I know for me personally, losing the playing piece, not the way I wanted to do it, it led to a little more on my plate on the anxiety and depression route, which I never really looked at. So for me, it's a real deal, folks. I'm not one of those people that say it's like one of those things. Some people are like, "Oh, stop talking about that. It's not real." No, that's real. Like that's a real thing. Your mental, how you're feeling. If you don't feel right, you have to talk to somebody. And
I also think, Scotty, it's important. We need to do a better job. And I was on the phone all day with people that I really respect, mindfulness experts like Emily Perrin, I was talking to a couple other people, and you were part of the group chat where I was saying, maybe we can come together and help athletes in general, because it seems like we say the phrase mental health, and people, yeah, your mentals should be good, I guess. I don't know, but a lot of people have, you and I, we dealt with some depression ourselves because when we retired, we didn't know where we fit anymore because your identity's gone.
That's the word.
You identify as an athlete, and all of a sudden you're not, and it gets real cold on that side of the wall. And that's one thing. And it feels like there's no in between feeling a little depressed and calling the suicide hotline. And it feels like for a lot of these kids, especially in today's age, man, where it's not as simple as it used to be, right? Like my problems growing up as a kid were right in front of me. Mm-hmm. My world was my town and my school and my parents and my friends' parents. Now I'm worried as a father. I have a 6-year-old who's asking for a phone already. A kid from Kentucky could pop up on his Instagram one day and say something that could ruin my child's life.
Yep.
And I have no control over that. I deal with athletes on a daily basis as a face-off coach, where they can't deal with losing face-offs, and dealing with loss as an athlete is such an important part of learning who you are and how to deal with it so you can bounce back and become a better, stronger person. I think we need to do a better job as role models. We need to do a better job as people that are in the public space to let kids know that Instagram, social media, you're seeing somebody's highlight.
It's the fucking highlight of somebody's life.
Yes. My life is very complicated. Everyone's is. And we don't live in a world where people can just say, I'm going to work hard and be nice to people. It's not that simple. It should be, but it's not. So if you need help, if you need to talk to somebody, yes. I would say on the other thing, and this is the part of in me who selfishly I'm battling with, is I was close with Gordon. We spoke on a very regular basis when he was at USA Lacrosse. I feel tremendous guilt for letting that time go by further from our communications after he left USA Lacrosse. So in your life with somebody, if you know somebody who has any bouts with that stuff,
check in.
You have a friend who's going through something, check in.
Hey, listen, I'm going to give you a personal example here. I know, Steve's I'm going off here, but this is important for us. I mean, Greg and I, we hold this pretty dear to us because we've experienced it. It's something as easy as Greg called me the other day, right? Greg calls me the other day. My mom's in the hospital. I'm dealing with some shit. You know what? A good friend calls me up and goes, how you doing? We got tons of shit going on in our lives. We're moving. He's got kids. I got my shit going on. It doesn't take much time. It took 30 seconds. It took 30 seconds for him to say, hey, you're all right. And listen, me and him are both big, strong fucking guys, right? We're big, strong guys. We have, this big exterior. At the end of the day, I want people to know, and I'm telling you from a guy who's been through it, you're not a tough guy if you keep those feelings in. You're not a tough guy. You're hurting yourself, and I've been through it. The best thing I've done is talk to my father. I've talked to, and be vulnerable and share these things. And I tell you, even talking, you're just like, God, that feels bad.
We're all human at the end of the day. Our prayers are with Gordon and his family. And like these guys said, check in with your friends, give them a call. And then, if you're going through it yourself, it's okay to feel not okay. Reach out for help. Everyone has, people will be there for you. And I'm glad, Greg, I'm glad you brought this up because it's so important. And it's coming off the month of November where, I was pushing to raise money for men's health, which includes, I went through something a little bit different, but the Movember Foundation does it for mental health, for prostate cancer, for testicular cancer, those, big health issues that really affect men. So I'm really glad we talked about it, and really appreciate it. Hope you guys, the listeners, really, really took something out of this. And without further ado, I would like to turn it over to our interview with Matt Rambo. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. Matt Rambo, member of the Whipsnakes Lacrosse Club and the Philadelphia Wings, former Maryland Terrapin. Welcome to the pod, man. We're pumped to have you on.
Thanks for having me, boys. I've been watching you guys for a while now.
What's up, my thick son?
I'm your father. Don't forget that.
I'm pumped to have you, man. One of my favorite people in the sport. You're kind of similar to myself. We're kind of known as like simple guys, lunch pail guys. I know how you grew up. I love that about you. Just talk to me a little bit. Talk to me about, how you came into the game and like how, a little bit about your upbringing, how you started. I'd like to hear a little origin story of how you created what we call the Matt Rambo legend.
Oh, yeah. I grew up in Philadelphia. And my dad was a super young dad. He had my brother and me at 18 and 21, and he played lacrosse at Abington High School. And he was going to play football at Albright and transfer to Drexel to play lacrosse. But he had my brother along, and he loved the sport, and we all fell in love with the sport with him. Growing up, I played football, I wrestled, I played soccer. But, there's something about lacrosse that I just fell in love more than any other sport. And the area that I'm from, and there's so many great guys that came out of that area. Ryan Ambler, Austin Buffani, the Forsters. There's just so many people that are just, legends over in that area. I can go on and on and on about, the greats there. And I just looked up to so many guys, went to so many games, and, that was my life, coming home from school, not even doing homework, going right into the backyard until my mom had to pull me in. So, that's how I kind of grew up playing, and I'm from a blue-collar family, so nothing was easy around me.
It was a different time back then, man. Your parents used to have to make us come in and eat dinner instead of telling us to get off our phones and go outside. Whole different world.
Maddie,
it's crazy. I still remember that.
Thinking about what you just said, right? I always I think of like players now that I kind of relate to players in the past. And I can't stop thinking about the comparison with Brendan Mundorf. Right, I think you play very similar. Like he's built like thick like that, dodge kind of fearlessly, power, but you also have a little finesse to that game. Played indoor, American played indoor, having success. What kind of like who do you model? Who do you always who do you watch growing up?
When I was younger, I was a little bit quicker and I could just juke around people a little bit more. But growing up, I used to watch, I think everyone used to watch Mikey Powell highlights. And we were just talking about that last night. I was with Kyle Harrison and we were talking about his highlights, and, we wish he played in the pros and see what he could have done. I used to watch him. I used to love watching John Grant Jr. and the Gate brothers do all their crazy stuff. I mean, John Grant used to do some crazy stuff with behind the backs, and he's a big, thick guy too. So, I just tried to just kind of be my own player at the same time. I was not as fast as Mikey Powell, and I wasn't bodying people up in high school like John Grant Jr. was doing when I used to watch him. So, just trying to just make my own thing going and using my body as an advantage, using my quickness as an advantage, and just learning from everyone. And especially at Maryland, Coach Tillman helped me out so much, evolve my game from just being a shooter to, being a passer as well.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up Junior, because in my career, you are one of two people where at the end of the game, when they get the ball, I would kind of just be like, shit. And when Junior would get the ball at the end of the game, you're just like, you're so scared, because you're like, unless the person he feeds it to drops it, or our goalie guesses totally correctly, this shit's a wrap. And same thing with you. I mean, for people who don't know at home, Matt Rambo personally retired to me, and it was very nice of him to do that. But I remember a 2019 championship game. We get ahead, and everyone people from the PLL come over to like, where are your parents sitting? We're going to bring them down. I'm like, dude, the game's not over yet. Are you kidding me? And then when you got the ball back with 4 seconds left, you got the ball in your hands, and I almost started walking towards the box to take the next draw, because I was like, it's a wrap. Where does that mentality come from, you just being a closer? Like, is it from experience, or were you just born with that?
I think it's something you're just kind of born with. I don't think you can't just be like, I'm clutch, and you learned it from someone. I mean, I like the big moments, and, I thought that moment was kind of, a little bit more home for me, and probably for you as well, just being in Philly. I had so many family and friends there, and, the first PLL championship, the adrenaline was going crazy. Like, I remember after the game, I was telling my dad, I was like, I don't even remember how I scored the last 2 goals, because adrenaline was so crazy.
Nuts.
And I'm sure, you don't even remember that face-off going on. Like, it was just so crazy going on.
I don't remember. I just remember existing in that game. You're right, because it wasn't Philly. I remember my old ass had like an extra gear that day playing in front of that crowd. But you're right, man. I liken it to, I tell people, like, when you get married, you plan for so long, and then all of a sudden it goes by in a second, and you're sitting there like, what the hell just happened? Same thing in that game. It was crazy. I know it was a memorable moment. I just don't remember much of it.
And that crowd was electric there too. That crowd was crazy. One of the best crowds I played in.
I remember that game. I remember leaving that game being like, PLL is absolutely not going anywhere. Like that was a definitive moment for me with those stands and those people gave a shit. I was like, yo, they just came up with the team names like 9 months ago. And here we are, people like diehards cheering for teams. It was awesome.
Yo,
oh man,
Matty, I've been begging to ask you, like, do you ever feel? Because I feel like sometimes in our league that we highlight a lot of individual talent, right? There is young talent. There's guys that could definitely, we had what's his name on? Mikey Sowers on. And listen, he's explosive. He's dynamic, right? But when I think of you, man, I think you get underappreciated sometimes because you can kind of defer sometimes, right? Like sometimes I think for a superstar player to give and trust his teammates to make the play because you know all the attention's on yourself and maybe you don't have to press. You think that's a kind of like a piece of your game where you have Zed, you trust Zed, you trust Jay in there to catch that feed. Is it something where you feel like you don't need to do it all the time?
I mean, we have a great defense, so it gives us a lot of pressure off, I think, our offense a lot. Having Earhart and, the three boys back there, and then having like Ty Warner and Jake that just been together since the beginning of the PLL, and they all played together in college, behind Kyle. So, they give us a lot of pressure off. Narge is so good at the X that, he wins so many draws, at least over 60%. But then he also is a threat coming down the field, which is awesome for us. But, on the offense end, we don't want to be that flashy team. And I think that's been like our motto. And I think a lot of teams have been kind of like going off the Whip Snakes motto, just, hit singles, make the right play. It's the pros and everything. But the simple plays are usually ones that work the best, not the home run plays. And I think a lot of people are trying to take our motto from that. And, our motto or model, whatever you want to call it, it works. And I think more and more teams are doing it. And, the teams with the least amount of turnovers are probably going to win the game. The team with the more ground balls and higher shot percentage are going to win the game. And, it's not always about the first shots of the best shot, could Stag say. So, if I have one goal, if I have 10 goals, it doesn't matter. We just got to win the game. And, that's all we're trying to do because no one gives a shit about MVPs, really. No one cares if you want an MVP. It's special to win an MVP, but a trophy with your team means a lot more.
What you just talked about Stags. I know that relationship. I know you personally, and I know Stags personally. I know, there's definitely times where you're not just taking it, right? You're definitely going to have some feedback for him. We're grown adults, so I know that it's definitely – is Stags' style of coaching – have you guys grown together about like your relationship, how you got to respond to him?
Well, I think, our relationship compared to, I think me and Channy are the only ones that I've been with Stags my whole life in the pros. I was with him in Charlotte and I'm with him with the Whip Snakes. And it's more like, people are like a father-son. Yeah, we bump heads, we yell at each other sometimes, but it's not like negative stuff. It's just that we're both so competitive. And you kind of see it with like Tom Brady do it all the time. He's yelling at his guys. Sometimes, we're grown adults. Sometimes you gotta, I think Stags knows too. Sometimes when he yells at me, he gives me an extra gear. And I think that goes with a bunch of us athletes. Some people don't like to be yelled at. I'm one of the guys that, I kind of gives me an extra boost when a coach is yelling at me a little bit more. And, at the end of the game, if we yell at each other at a huddle or two, it's not really personal. It's just, he might just tell me to shut up and let him talk for a second. Like, it's nothing personal. Like, after the game, he's awesome. I live down in Florida. His son went to JU. We used to go to dinner all the time. We still talk all the time. He wishes me good luck for my indoor games. So our relationship is tighter than ever. And, I wouldn't want it any other way. I wouldn't want him not to yell at me. And sometimes, he has to, I feel like coaches hear feedback from their players too. It would be different if my high school kids are yelling at me. But, I think we both have such great respect for each other. And that's why I love him and I love all our coaches.
I think you bring up a great point there, because one of my favorite clips was when, I don't remember which year it was, but I think you took a shot and you had some lip for each other on the field.
Wow.
And I wasn't sure if, some people were like, oh, why is he yelling at his coach? But it just showed, like you said, how competitive both of you guys are and how much you guys care. Like when you're driving to the cage, you're not going to take the shot unless you think you're going to score. Like you think you're going to pot that. So
that was the worst. That was our worst game ever. That was in San Francisco or San Jose, and the Chrome, they weren't that good the first year, and we were getting pumped by them. It was like 18-2, and I think I shot a bad shot, and everyone's body language was bad. Everyone's all tight. We couldn't score. Our defense couldn't stop it. Kyle couldn't stop a ball. Dan Morris couldn't stop a ball. We couldn't win a face-off. It was a disaster of a day. So I think everyone was just a little bit heated.
It's like any like relationship, man. It's like a girlfriend or a marriage or a wife. Like you're gonna fight, right? It's like at some point you're gonna bump heads. You've been together for what, 7, 8 years?
Not you. You'll be boo loving on Instagram with your girl all the time now.
Right now, I get it. Just enough earful. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Don't worry about
kissing on Instagram, laying with
where's Grace at, boy?
She's on stairs.
Shut your mouth now, boy.
Matt, what you're saying, and we talk about it all the time, like hopefully some kids are listening to our podcast with their parents, let them. But like, it's refreshing to hear for these kids to hear this, because we are in a generation right now where people can't take it. They can give it, but they can't take it. And I think for kids to hear that a PLL champion, MVP, needs to be coached and needs to have fire lit under his ass sometimes. They have to understand that that's just what part of being an athlete is. But it also talks to Stags about, we talk about this all the time on this show, the ability to coach men as opposed to coaching high school or college kids is so vital as a professional level lacrosse coach. And some guys can't make that transition. And Stags certainly has, because he respects guys. He'll coach you. He'll yell at you, but you can tell that there's respect there. He doesn't belittle any of his players. Right. He also listens.
Yeah, he's great. I think it's definitely hard to coach professional. I mean, PT Ritchie is a pretty young coach too, and he has to coach our defense that's been together forever. But yeah, I think it's way tougher, and especially nowadays. Like, I coach a high school down in Florida, and there's certain kids that like to be yelled at. Usually, like, more of my football kids like to be yelled at. And then there's other kids that I got to be like, hey, Johnny, it's okay. And I'm like, yo, I'm not doing that anymore. You're going to get yelled at.
It's those kids that you're playing golf with their dads. It's those kids that get yelled
at. Yeah.
Yo, Matt,
we're going into this free agency period here. Tell us about the culture of the Whip Snakes. Tell us about, what you see writing on the wall wise. Like, why is it hard for guys to lead this, other than obviously you guys have won championships together, but what does it make you guys, what's the unity like?
I think everyone's always like, it's all Maryland guys, but when you look at the squad now, it's not all Maryland guys. I just think that we're just such a tight group. Like, other teams I played on, like, when we're done practice on Friday night, we're playing cards. Like, there's like a big group of us. We're playing Boo-Ray. We're playing cards with everyone, or we're watching games together. We're not just like everyone going to their bed, going to sleep. Like, no, we're hanging out together. After games, we go and hang out. I think that's such a big thing in pro sports, is especially for our sport. Like, we don't see each other every single day. So after games, win or lose, if we can go out together as a team, that's just going to build chemistry and it's going to build bonding up. And you don't have to drink. You can just come out and hang out. Come downstairs in the lobby and hang out with everyone for, a good hour. That's what we like to do. We like to get everyone involved. We don't, exile anyone out. Everyone's invited everywhere. And at the same time, we have great captains. Earhart and Jake are just so powerful leaders that, they can move people and, our expectation is super high every year, just because we've been, at every single spot. We won championships, we lost championships, we got knocked out last year. So we just have a standard now, and you don't meet the standard, you're going to hear it during the week. Like, you got it. Like this year, in the beginning of the year, the first half I played all right. Stags called me. We had like a couple bye weeks, and he's like, "Get your ass the next 2 weeks, and you got to run and shoot more." And I listened to him, and I had a great second half of the season. And, that's our standard. You got to meet our standard, or we're going to bring other guys in. But I just think, and it goes to the motto of, like, hit singles. Don't do too much. If the guy's wide open, pass him the ball. If you got to take a shot and jump in front of a ball, take a shot. Don't go over the head at goal line. Just play smart. It's just like back to basic, because the shot clock is so short. It's just hitting the right plays or playing the right defense. Because once that shot clock gets to 10, it gets a little, antsy around on the offense or the defense.
Yeah.
So just playing smart. Just play smart lacrosse.
Well, you're also speaking to why a high school lacrosse game in the spring is much better to watch than a all-star game, or maybe one of these showcases that happens during the summer where they just throw a bunch of studs out there. Because in those showcases, kids are trying to make it on Instagram. They're trying to impress people with what they can do. Whereas if everybody just knows their role in the spring, everybody looks good when you're winning, because everybody's scoring, everybody's making plays. So, your mentality, of course, it's going to trickle down. And I feel like the Whip Snakes that first year and that second year, especially in the bubble, started setting a tone for people where they're like, yo, this is a business now. Like, this is serious. And if you don't come to play as a team, as a squad, and you don't take it seriously, this is no, look, I'll be honest, I love the MLL, but there was times where you get away with acting like a jackass on the field.
Oh, absolutely.
In the PLL, there's no wiggle room. The games are too short, the field is too small, and the shot clock is too fast. And the other thing, too, is, the bottleneck of talent that can't make it into the league. Like, you can take an entire group of guys who never sniffed the PLL and go probably win a gold medal in the FIL. So, as we're looking at that, how does that competitive nature every week feel when you guys are hitting practice before a game for the guys who are dressing and aren't?
Yeah, we have a great, like I keep talking about our motto or our model, whatever you want to base off. Like, you got a wedding during the season, you're not going to the wedding. Like, you want to be a pro athlete, this is it. You think, Jalen Hurts is going to skip a game because he has, his second cousin's wedding? No, he's not doing that. Like, and if it's your brother or someone, they should know better not to have a wedding in the summer. So, that's one thing that was different from the MLL. I remember people used to miss games all the time. Oh, I got a wedding. I got a wedding this week.
It was like I felt like a rarity there. Just like I missed probably 13 weddings in my career playing 10 years in the MLL, and I'm like,
yeah, some of us were outliers because we took it seriously like a career.
It was like me, Greg, Kyle Harrison, Hartz, Raves, like the old heads, Joey Walters. We're all sitting there, and we're like, I'm missing a wedding. My buddy's like, you're missing a wedding for $400. I said, that's not the point, though, right? Like, the point is, the sacrifice of the thing is how many years are you going to play pro? 10, 12 years, whatever, max. I was lucky to play as long as I did. Greg, you played long, right? Maddie, you're still doing it, right? You're a vet now. There is sacrifice if you want to be great, if you want to win those championships. I just don't know if the MLL sometimes some guys will afford.
Well, you can't have it both ways, right? We desperately, one of the reasons this podcast exists is we desperately want the PLL to reach that level. But guys don't get paid that amount of money, and it doesn't reach that level if sacrifices aren't made. So if you want to be a professional athlete, you got to act like one. And then hopefully, if you act like one long enough, you get paid like one. And this thing reaches the spot where we all think it can. So tell me about that PLL atmosphere, because I experienced 1 year of it. But watching where it's going, watching where it's come to right now, tell us about the rise of how it feels to be a professional now.
Yeah, between both leagues, with the PLL and the NLL, the PLL does such a great job of making you feel like a professional athlete, like a superstar, with their social media, with, the games on. I think that ESPN it was a huge deal for us. So I think that aspect of it is great. And I think, they're starting to lock down cities now. Like, I think year one, they picked a bunch of cities, and now we're returning to all of them, and we're getting, big crowds. And, we don't have to go to, 40,000 person stadiums and sell it out. No, let's go to these 10,000 person stadiums, sell it out. And if you don't get tickets, that's your fault. Sell the 10,000 tickets out. It's tighter, it's louder, and it's better, and it's packed, instead of going to somewhere else where they're probably spending a boatload of money where they're not filling half of it up. And you know what? It's a summer sport right now. And, a lot of people have vacation. It's hard to come to games. So when we can pack these 10,000 person stadiums out, it's huge. And, what they do on the back end with the sponsorship with like Champion, and, they hook us up with a bunch of gear, and, the training facilities like are awesome. Our trainers are awesome. It's definitely a more professional. Like, I didn't do film in MLL. Now I do film, once or twice a week when we're in season. So it's just a way better feel. It's just awesome. And the pictures before the bus, it's just like they're taking so many different professionals. Basketball, they take pictures before the bus. We have like the walkout, like the European soccer. So I think you're just mixing a bunch of professional sports motto and putting it in ours. And, one of these years it's going to blow up. And, I'm excited if I can be a part of it, or I'm excited to just be one of the guys that were, the first guys to play in the PLL. So I think it's here to stay. And, I'm excited to see if they're ever going to go city base.
Yeah, Matt, Maddie, you were talking about the NLL bit. I know that's a big part of your life, and that must kind of be hard for you. What's your off season? You have a 2-month gap of like golf?
Yeah. I live in Florida, so I can golf every day. It's 77. It's sunny right now. I play pickleball today. But no, the off seasons are short. October, half of November, May, it's just short, and, keeps me in shape. Sometimes I wish I played only one of them so I could have a full off season where I can get a full lifting in, a full speed and agility. But this thing keeps me in shape all the time. I'm still running once or twice a week now. I think early in my career I didn't do it as much, but now I'm getting older. I'm like, I got to stay in shape, and I've been in better shape now that I feel like I was in younger and like earlier in my career. So, it's just a balance of life. It's definitely difficult traveling, but I play for Philadelphia, so for the NLL, so I get to go home, and my family and friends are there. Grace is from there too, so she can go see her family. So it's a good mixture of stuff. And, the NLL game just made my game so much more. From being in the MLL, then I went right in the NLL and the PLL. My game went up, my stick skills got better, my shooting got better, my vision got better, my body, be able to feel pressure got better. And the atmosphere at NLL games are crazy.
So yeah, those are two things I feel like you said. It's hard to get rid of the NLL if you already do. Because even me just messing around, having a cup of coffee with the swarm out there, just seeing like those rinks, the way they pack out, seeing the atmosphere there, and then also obviously, like you said, it's the competitive. It's a different game. But like, what do you think? The NLL for you, it's like that model of a city-based model. I miss that. I liked going to Ohio. I loved going. We played in the MLL. I went to Ohio for 5 years. Checked into my hotel, same lady for 5 years, saying, "Hey, Scotty, here's your key." Just the fans. You know what I mean? Like, do you miss that to go into the PLL? You think?
I think, especially Philly's indoor team has been together for like 30 years now. So we have fans that were there 30 years ago, crazy fans.
Dude, I grew up on Friday night
wings games.
Yeah, they were nuts. They were awesome. They used to pack, I think, probably the Spectrum when you were younger, and there was like 25,000 people there, and now we still get 10 to 12.
Matt, Wachovia Center. That's
Wachovia Center. There's still 20,000 people.
Dallas Iliac.
Yeah, Dallas Iliac.
Yeah.
Dude. Yeah, it was sick.
I watched.
It's just different. I do like the city model. Like, you go to the city, after we see some of our boys and, the spots that we're going to go to. But, the fans are just crazy. Like you go up to Buffalo, you know they're packing like 17,000 fans. Or you go over to Colorado, they're packing 14. You go to Saskatchewan, it's packed. Like I just played in Halifax, there was like 12,000 fans in that city there. It was rocking. It was crazy. It was awesome.
The whole population of the town.
Yep.
Right. It was crazy.
What's your favorite place in the NLL to play? What's the best place to play atmosphere and the best place to go out after an NLL game?
Well, it's probably. I mean, that's tough. I mean, atmosphere-wise, Saskatchewan, when they were like winning championships, that was one of my first years there. They had like 12, 13,000 person stadium, and they packed it with like 15,000. It was crazy. That was awesome. But going out after, I mean, San Diego's always great. Their team's great. Calgary was awesome. Halifax was fun. Yeah. I know we're playing in Vegas next month, so that's going to be awesome.
When that schedule came out, how many people in the group chat circled back?
I think my dad and brother are like, all right, we're coming to that game. I think they might be playing outdoor this weekend too, which is going to be wild. Outdoor, indoor game.
Outdoor, right?
Yeah, it's going to be wild. Joe Sion, those guys are, they're going to figure that out over in San Diego.
Like a winter classic. It's like a winter classic for NHL, but it's fucking 74 and sunny. It's amazing.
Yeah, there's always fun place to go. We play in Long Island. Sometimes we'll train it to New York City. And obviously going out in Philly is awesome. All the city spots are top notch. Toronto is awesome. You go out in Buckhead in Georgia, all the spots they're all A1. They're all fun to go out.
You just 95% of what I missed.
That's awesome that you guys got that Vegas draw, because right, you guys are in the East, and that was like a low percentage, right?
Yeah, that's our only team. We're playing out west, so we got lucky to go out there. January 6th, it's a Friday night. We might stay there all weekend.
I mean, you got to keep Blaze away from the fucking casino. Jesus.
We were gonna invite you, Scotty, to come, but your girl, I don't know if she's ready.
No. I'll tell you right now from experience, Sky's not built for Vegas, man.
Oh man,
that's
one day and out.
That's an unbelievable take by Matt. That's unbelievable.
You mentioned cards earlier, and I heard your boy Kirst is an easy mark. He donates his game checks to the card table.
Always.
He moved out to Vegas, and he's living out there. I'm like, dude, live as far away from the strip as you possibly can.
Well, they got their house that they put them up in. The guys at Marcus Frizzly sick. They got like a 4-bedroom house with turf, with like a jacuzzi or hot tub in the back. Like they're gonna have some fun out there. Yeah, Curse is. When we play Boo-Ray, some of you guys might know that game. That's like a Drew Snyder game, and that game can get. Curse is an easy one to take some money from.
Those dudes are on like rookie checks too out there. Some of them, those dudes might break even on the season.
Oh man, it's so funny.
That's wild.
I was blackjack dealer during training camp this year, slinging the cards out.
You're just a street hustler. That's what you are.
No, the first night I got hit hard. The second night I made my money back.
Hey, man, you got to be the nail before you get to be the hammer. So
that's right.
Well, Matt, we don't want to keep you all night, fellas. We got any last questions for him before we go?
No, he's been great. You already put me through the gauntlet.
Matt, there was a lot of talk about cheesesteak spots. RJ sparked it before the championship game. What's your go-to?
I mean, people always say Gino and Pat's, and that's for tourists. My spot is Steve's Princess Steaks. They do the long meat. They got the American cheese that's like whiz. They pour it on. I love that spot. I mean, other than that, I don't know if it would be considered a cheesesteak spot, but I think Angelo's Pizza has one of the best cheesesteaks I've ever had with the sesame roll.
Is Jim's back up and running?
I don't know. It was caught on fire this winter. That's sad because that's one of my top spots. And yeah,
I'm gonna Uber Eats a fucking Jersey Mike's Big Kahuna right now.
Yeah,
that's not the same.
Scotty Raj, if you ever want to take your girl, go to Barclay Prime, get the $120 Wagyu cheesesteak with a bottle of champagne.
Buddy, you are literally sticking a fucking dagger at me tonight, huh?
I'm not. I'm telling you,
We will talk to the producers. We'll talk to the producers. We'll make that happen.
It couldn't be fucking just regular beef. You had to say Wagyu and champagne, right? You had to do it.
It's $125. It's Wagyu cheesesteak. They make the bread like that hour. They put truffle cheese on it. Comes a bottle of champagne. It's a perfect day.
You got gold flakes for it too?
They ask him for it. I'm telling you,
When he did that, he said it was worth every cent.
I do it all. I've done it. I'm telling you, I'm giving you a good date spot.
Is that $120 Wagyu cheesesteak? You tell me to get it.
Yeah.
Notes.
All right, both of you. All right, two Philly guys.
Sounds like a good date spot. Then you get the items and you pass out in the cab on the way home.
It's either one.
All right, Matt. We appreciate you
guys,
coming on.
appreciate it.
Good luck to the rest of the NLL season. We're rooting for you. Welcome back, everybody. We hope you enjoyed listening to Inside the Life of Matt Rambo. I mean, it sounds like he's living it, right? Playing NLL, playing PLL, living down in Florida, coaching some high school.
Golfing, playing pickleball.
He's got it going on right now.
He's got it. Best shape of his life, he said. I love that for him. I mean, he's crushing it. So with that being said, we talked to Matt a little bit about the whip snakes culture, what that means to them. You know, we always look at it like, you know, it's Terps 2.0, but they have some deals expiring this year. Some pretty important players, I'd say, considering, you know, Mike Chanchuk, Brian Cole, some of those Terps. Then they got Justin Gutterding, Chris Islanian, who was, you know, a good helper for them towards the end of the season last year. But, you know, and then Jake Bernhardt, I missed him. But of those players, I think who needs to stay, who needs to be locked down, and who do you think might be headed for greener pastures?
I like I played with Brian Cole in Ohio. He was he's like one of the best glue guys for an offense. The way he doesn't really need much. Dude, he doesn't need much. Yeah, he doesn't need to create. He kind of plays within the flow. I think I honestly think just his relationship with those guys from that team, I honestly feel like he'll be back. I got to imagine. You know, Colsey plays well. The interesting guy is Asalian. I think he's dude, that guy's a workhorse, dude. I've worked camps with him. He's a fucking big dude. Yeah, I mean, he's a broad
Armenian man.
He's a big shoulders, wide shoulders. Said he was a swimmer. You know, he was a swimmer growing up, so he's got that build. He could. I mean, he's an athlete. I don't know. I think he helps. He helps them in a weird way. If they could get a more dynamic, I don't know how many years Channy has left. And that's not saying he's not producing. He's coaching. I know that at Stony Brook.
He's still launching him from 2.
You know, but they need to have a creator at the midfield. I know.
Hoss is retired, right?
Yes, I think
so. And I'm interested to see how many more years Bernie is going to play.
And Brad Smith went up in that rankings this year. He jumped.
Brad's a dog. He's just a talk about a physical specimen. Awesome.
What's their draft spot, Sibes?
I don't think we have that yet. It is in our note sheet. It is blank right now. I don't know. Is it has something to do with maybe the sixes? The sixes?
Figure it out.
Maybe I don't know.
Maybe
I don't know.
Or maybe Noah's in trouble
again.
You know, I think you're looking at a Whip Snakes team that has their parts, and unless a guy retires or there's another expansion draft, I don't see the core of this team changing much.
It goes. Listen, how their whole team's based on sides, and I think Matty was touching on it with they call it the model. The defense is intact.
6th pick, by the way.
6th? No, that's Trey H. All right, listen. Defense is solid. Goaltending solid. Face-offs are solid. Attack is solid. It's already done. Those are done. So now this midfield can be wiggled with a little bit, right? You're going to either add a more dynamic piece to the dodging, which I think they could get a little more speed up top. I do want them to, see that. But besides that, dude, that team's built on the back ends. They bookend it. So it's like, and then Greg, the importance of the middle. So like I said, if it's the midfield that needs work, it's going to be maybe a 6th pick. What do we got coming out for the 6th pick? I mean, they should still be a good mini in that draft, right? That draft's massive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're just going to take Maryland.
Well, the reason I was bringing that up is if you have guys who are on the roster that, like, you're not cracking the attack. No, you're not cracking the D line. They have a face-off guy. They have their goalie. So, like, and they have the best long pole in the world. So, as a midfielder, like you said, Channy. I don't think Channing's going anywhere until I think he's going to retire as a whip snake.
I think they bring in Greg. That's a great point about Mike. I hear through the grapevine. We're still connected a little bit. The grapevine might say Mike's going to go out after this year. I think Mike's going to go out, and I think maybe grooming someone under Mike for a season wouldn't be a terrible idea. So you can kind of seamlessly transition there you're never going to make up for a player like that.
Yeah.
But
I mean, look, that Whip Snakes face-off unit, and Rambo touched on it, like Nardella will win a decent amount of his own draws, but there's even games where he's getting smoked, and Earhart is that wing unit too will clean it up, and you look on the stat sheet like, oh, they're 50-50. And so when Joe's already up here, and then when he's having a bad day, Earhart cleans it up. You better groom somebody.
Yeah.
Because I could see that. I could see, Mike VP making another run at a gold medal with Team USA, going out on top, and then moving on with his life after lacrosse, which is, he would deserve to go out however he wants, but that's a pretty cool way to go out. I could see, but you're right. I mean, when you lose a caliber of player, and it's also not like Mike is, if he does that, is going to be leaving, and it's like, oh man, remember how? Okay, let's take a perfect example. Brody Merrill is still phenomenal, but when Brody was in his prime,
I played with him.
If he walked away, a year after Canada won the gold medal in 2014, right? Whatever team he was on, they would have been like, there's a massive drop off, right? If Brody decides to hang it up this year, you're like, man, we're going to miss him as a great player and a leader. But we could find somebody who's young and athletic and could kind of make up a little bit for that. When Earhart leaves, if he leaves after next year, man, that's a huge drop off. You better find you better find a top 3 player in the world, or you're going to notice that all over the inside between the lines.
I think you guys touched on it. You guys touched on it too. I mean, Chanchuk had 22 points last year, tied for first in the midfield, and then they're besides Brad Smith, their next 3 midfielders, points-wise, are all free agents. Chanchuk, Gutterding, and Brian Cole. I mean, I think that, Gutterding moving from the Chrome kind of found his place in the Whipsnakes offense, was able to produce, and he was 6-10 last year. He had 10 assists. That kid's known as a goal scorer. He was at one point in time the collegiate all-time goal scorer, and he's out there dishing apples with the Whipsnakes.
Yo, he seemed to be having a lot of fun last year.
Understand, there's a little, we talk about ego a lot on here. Like, there is ego to being a stud player. I had one, Greg had one. It's just part of the beast. He has been that guy, right? And to go to a team as selfless as the Whipsnakes, it could be a relief sometimes to not have to do so much. But you also realize, with that being said, it means that you're not going to touch the ball as much. So, like I said, that's like we talk about Lyle, right? Like Lyle, if Lyle doesn't touch the ball, I don't know if all the magic happens. So it's like, how do you? Yeah. He's not a guy that you can just plug in.
I kind of compare it to the situation though with Connor Fields and the Archer. Yeah. He was the guy for the chaos. He was the one lighting the lamp, and he moves to a little bit of that out of the box midfield role, and he kind of found his stride this past season. So I can kind of see Gutterding keep playing that sort of fourth attackman on the field role, kind of that comes out of the box.
We also touch sometimes on the spot you are in your career. And Gutterding, like when I was a face-off guy in my prime, it's like, yeah, I want to be the alpha. I want to eat everybody alive. If you told me, hey, Greg, man, we're going to compete. We're going to basically be in championship weekend the last 3 seasons of your career, but you are going to share reps with somebody else. I'd be like, dude, bring it on.
Bring it on.
And I think Gutterding is at a point in his career where he's I'm trying to rack up some titles.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if I'm the 4th guy or the 5th guy. If I can contribute, especially in that locker room with what they've developed with their core values, I think he's okay with that.
Dude, I don't see that. The whole league, and I love that, what you're saying. In other leagues, there's bottom tier teams, right? There's like teams that they're going through a rebuild, they're doing this in other sports. In our league right now, it's at a point where it's so saturated with talent and not enough teams that the only team that really has that is the Cannons. The Cannons are a team that you could go there, you might get yours, but you're probably not going to win a championship now.
I will say
you might not even get yours with Lyle.
After we talked about this for the last few episodes, I have come to the conclusion that if somebody leaves, it'll be for playing time or most likely because they want to play with somebody.
Yeah.
I don't think the dollars are going to make a ton of – I don't think anybody is going to go from a $20,000 payday to a $50,000 payday.
No.
So I think if I'm sitting here going, okay, say I'm a fringe guy, I'm in and out of the lineup with the Redwoods, but if I go to the Chrome, my skill set just so happens to be needed, and I know that I'm going to get more game checks in general, because I get more PT, that makes sense. Or my old college roommate is playing on this team and I get to be a line mate with him. I could see that moving the needle. I don't see cash moving the needle on this.
I would love to see cash one day be the incentive where.
Yeah, one day. But there's got to be more than this many teams, like you said.
Scotty,
it's like, I'm leaving the Chiefs to go to the Lions for an extra $2 million.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And that doesn't exist.
I think you bring up a good point too, Scotty, because there is so much talent. There could be, a fourth, fifth midi on a team that say there was, 3-4 more teams. They could be the guy on that team, but there's just no space. So a lot of these moves might depend on what piece of the puzzle are you, and do you fit into that team's puzzle? Like, do you work?
Here's the other part: is if you're a fringe guy and you want to argue over dollars and cents with not the general manager, your coach.
Yeah, you're done.
And you want to say, I don't know if I want to sign. I think I want to test free agency.
You're probably not going to play.
You have to remember something. If you're a fringe guy now on a team, there are a whole bunch of 25-year-olds coming out of college that are studs. Your coach will be like, all right, whatever, man. Like, if you don't want to be here, you don't want to be here. I'm gonna take this kid. So
well,
it'll be interesting.
In the MLL, I'll give the MLL. I'll give them some credit here. There was discrepancy between the top 4 teams and the bottom 4 teams. Now, we could call that the league-owned teams and the non-league-owned teams, but I was on a league-owned team and we won a championship, so it wasn't that. It was basically there was a Florida launch team that nobody, if you got sent there, you're like, I'm probably not going to make it to the finals, but if they're going to pay me $16,000 max pay, I'll go play there. And that was a little bit, at the time for some guys, a little bit of a money incentive, I think. Because
it doesn't matter. In that league, you live in Philadelphia, you're like, I don't give a shit. I have to travel anyway.
And I get to go to Florida every week. I get to go chill, right? So it's also like, now, I think it's almost like, dude, if I could get on a roster, it's fucking, I'm taking anything. Because it's like the saturation of talent, right? And we talked about
the other thing too, Scotty, is there were teams opening and closing all over the place in the MLL.
Right.
And for the NLL too for a while there. With the PLL, it's like these organizations aren't going anywhere because if they close, that means the league closed.
Right.
So, like, if I want to go be part of 10 years from now, you go to Whipsnake's lore and it's like, oh my God, they won this many championships and this is part of – like I could be part of this team that was a dynasty once. It's almost like kids going to a recruiting visit at Syracuse, right? So that's what's going to happen. That's going to be part of the decision making. Is if you want to be part of this, historic or classic organization, that type of thing. So
the day I hear a story about a rookie bitching between the first pick and the fourth pick money, which is like $2,000, I will literally come on here and totally crucify him on here because I will not. That is literally, you get a spot.
And we'll have him as a guest.
Yeah.
We'll have him as a guest, and then you can buzzsaw him.
Yeah, because, listen, to be in that league right now is almost to get in the door.
It's a privilege. It's an absolute privilege.
And I'm not trying to ball wash the PLL. But listen, what it is if you can get in that roster, we did it. It's fucking hard to stay in there. And to be as a pro, you just take it. I think right now these young guys, mentality, get in the
0.00001% of lacrosse players.
Literally.
Listen, no, and you guys are, and even, talking from my own experience, when I was a practice player for the Cannons, I didn't give a fuck how much they paid me. I just wanted to get in there and try to pot a couple. Right? Yeah. Like, I just wanted to play on the game day. And it didn't, my MLL game checks were like $450.
That went right to.
Not even get started on what.
No, hey, where'd that go? Right to Johnny's, right?
Yeah, Fenway or West End Johnny's.
Yeah, right there. Yeah. West End Johnny's.
All right, so I think at the end of the day, though, it's safe to say, unless something crazy happens, I see this Whipsnake's core being completely back to what they were.
Yep.
Totally.
Yep.
What
they were a couple goals away from completely doing this whole thing.
And the last point that is why they are the Whipsnakes, because they have a concrete foundation that we're not even sitting here talking about massive change.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'll tell you what. I'll give you the list. The 7 players: Chris Islanian, Jake Bernhardt, Jay Carlson, Mike Channing, Chuck, Brian Cole, Justin Gutterding, Brian Phipps. Give me 3 that they have to keep.
Bernie,
just because of his mentality, the whole
Channy.
thing. Gutty, you said?
He said Channing.
I was going to say Gutty, Channy, and Bernie.
Gutty, Channy, Bernie. I'll do Channy, Bernie, Brian Cole.
All right, I like it.
you know what? I'm a goalie, and I played with Fippy. I love Phipps, and I know what he does for that team. He's like a coach. If he's in that backup role, I know it's all good there. I'll put Phipps over there. Put Phipps in
you
there.
know what? I'm going as Lannigan because he's Armenian. Woohoo!
There you go. We get 4.
All right, that's fair. No, I mean we don't want to poo-poo on anybody, but I mean these are why people listen. You know, these are the hot takes we need.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean this Whipsnakes team is a well-oiled machine. They're basically as close to the New England Patriots as there is in the lacrosse world, right? They're in it every year. So we'll see what the off season's on a roll right now. They have the Sixes coming up. We're excited to tune into that. We'll see how that plays out and what the Whipsnakes do. Moving on, we have the Cannons. We dogged them a little bit during the season. We gave them credit for being in games.
It's not dogging if it's truth.
True. I mean, but hold on. Let me finish real quick. They keep doing everything they can do to shoot themselves in the foot. They don't have a first-round draft pick
for like the next 3 years or something.
Yeah, Rubio is laughing about that, and whoever's taking the Atlas job, they got that draft pick. The deal's expiring. They have Tim Edwards, who's a workhorse for them. Nick Morocco, who's probably their franchise goalie. I'm assuming they're going to keep him. Brody Merrill, who's chasing our boy Greg's record. Ryan Tierney and Matt Abbott. So really not that many people up on contract. So they're bringing back a lot of the same people. They don't have a first-round draft pick. I don't want to say the outlook of the season's bleak for them because they were in every games, but I think they do have a lot of figuring out to do, and I would be interested to see if they try to make waves in terms of trades to maybe get back some draft picks.
I could see, if I were Coach Quirk, I'm sitting here going, okay, first off, I think it's important to notice 2 things. One, they didn't get blown out in games last year.
No.
Their goal is to find out how can we get a 2 to 3 goal differential. If they did that in half their games, they were in the playoffs and it's all good. So that's the thing. They don't need to rebuild. They just have to find a couple pieces. Do they need it to do it through the draft? I don't think so. And here's why. I think so many guys are going to go undrafted because there's so much talent that they can find undrafted guys and bring them into camp.
I hope this class sucks because
I think they need to figure out the face-off situation. I agree with you. I think Morocco, I think their goalie situation can be solid. I think that's good. I don't think Brody's going anywhere. I think Brody wants to play one more year. Another point, it was Brody's record first before I broke it, so it's fair that he has it back. Okay? And then I think the other thing is we have to remember that Abbott, I don't know how many more years Abbott's got. I mean, I can't believe Abbott is still going, man.
He's my age, right?
Dude, we used to call him Avatar. He would clear the ball and then play a full offense and then be the first guy in the hole on defense, clear it real quick, and then take a breather.
He single-handedly brought back the low socks. All the kids are doing it.
Dude,
he never left. He never left.
And there's not an ounce of fat on that kid.
Nah, he's a stallion.
Shredded.
Could I touch on the goalie thing? Because that's my area of business.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I think you played goalie.
Listen, Nicky's great, man. I'm a huge fan. So how we break down goaltending, I don't want to get into a whole lecture. We're talking a lot today, but it's a lot of fun. It's just he's a streaky kid. He's a streaky keeper. So with a pro goalie, you really do want consistency. And you want a guy like Kyle Bernlohr who is going to make probably 12 to 11 saves a game. He's going to keep clean. And listen, he'll make a steal or two, but he's really making saves that are built in the defensive concept, which is make the outside shots. Nicky steals like 6 or 7 because his defense kind of drops the ball sometimes. But consistency, right? For me, it's about, and I think the kid behind him
cursed
he's there. Yep. He's there for a reason. So I think they might have Nicky deserves to stay. I know Coach Quirk and him are tight. And they run the business together. And Nicky deserves to start right now. But don't keep it out of your head that they don't go to training camp and there might be a little bit of a battle.
They started cursed that last game, I think, against the Knicks, and he looked great. But I do think Nicky's the guy there. For now,
Boston guy.
Yeah,
I know you. I know you guys.
He's my age. I grew up playing against him.
We
were like
good kid.
13 years old, and he went to Georgetown. I went to Villanova, so played against him.
Studied Georgetown.
He's been a thorn in my side for most of my life.
He's good as shit.
But yeah, no, I think like you touched on, That's not their problem. I don't think the goaltending.
No.
I think Greg hit the nail on the head a little bit. They've had a little bit of a carousel at the face-off, and then I think they have the guy. They have Lyle. They need to build
it's
around
not an
him.
offensive. This is not an issue of player.
And remember, they have Cav now.
Yeah,
They have Ryan Drenner.
yeah.
I mean, listen, this is but I don't know if a one offensive-minded coach could go in there. Say Coach Quirk wasn't there, and say they bring in an offensive-minded guy.
Well, they have Kerwin. They have Kerwin from UVA as their assistant,
and he's
the offensive
unbelievable.
guru.
So what I'm thinking now is Lyle a blessing and a curse? Is Lyle the best player in the league? But how do we build around the best player in the league? I don't know if there's a solution to that. He's just a very unique player that we'll see once in our lifetime. But like, I don't know if you could put. I don't know. They've had so many different combinations of Asher Nolting. Maybe a guy that could kind of be a big guy finisher. Ryan Drenner, fast, explosive Dodger. They've had it all, dude. I mean,
that's my point. Is it's there. They just have to put it together at the right. When I played with the Redwoods, in 2019, there were games where you're like, this team sucks.
Yeah.
But then the exact same group of players would come back the next game and blow somebody out.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, what the hell's happening? Any given day, man, if people do what they're supposed to do and they're human.
Greg, I gotta be honest. Like I think this is not we gave Coach Quirk some grief this season, and all of us have been guilty of it. And listen, yes, X's and O's are a big part of this shit. But at the end of the day, someone in that locker room's got to stand up and be like, dude, we have all the talent in the fucking world. We got to put it together.
Here's what I think. If I was gonna summarize it,
Mm-hmm.
I think right now when you look at their offense, you have the best player in the world. You have Asher Nolting, who is going to be a superstar in this league.
Mm-hmm.
You have Kavanaugh coming over. You have Drenner. Then you have Ryan Tierney's. I mean, you have offensive things that you need. Okay, I think they need an injection of strength and youth at the defensive end, and I also think that they need a consistent face-off.
I was going to say, Greg. Why not
the approach they've taken?
Yeah.
Is they have done week in and week out auditions. You cannot survive as a professional organization doing that with your face
in season.
They threw away picks, man. Forget about the Rabel trade. But they just pissed away picks. They got Bones Kelly, who I love Bones, but the Archers didn't want him. They were going to pick some. They drafted a faceoff guy, and they're like, we're going to get rid of this guy anyway. And they overpaid for him.
But
there are some stud face-off guys coming out of college. I
know there are a litany of good face-off guys coming out of college.
You know better than all.
The question will be can they adapt to the rules?
Exactly.
You never know who can.
Got it.
So we've talked.
So do you think it's wise?
Sorry, Scott. Go ahead and talk, Scott.
Yeah, Scotty, go ahead.
Yeah. The discrepancy right now is so bad between the top three face-off guys and the rest. For me. It's like and those guys are struggling. Like all those teams that we're talking about, it's they don't have the ball, right? They just don't have the ball because they're getting beat. So how do we? I mean, you could say get better. You could say be a better, but those kids are coming in with.
Do you want to know the answer, Scott? Do you really want to do this right now? Somebody make Matty Palin officiate the face-offs the way they're written in the book. Okay, make sure you guys bleep me out. Now, that's how you fix this, okay? If you don't do it, we're going to have a dozen rookies coming to camp, and a dozen rookies are going to be retired after week 2. Now, getting back to what I was saying.
I have a hypothetical for you, Greg, quickly, though. Is it worth, based on what you just said, based on the rule change, based on the adaption, is it wise for the Cannons to maybe trade something they have for a draft pick to spend on a face-off guy that's coming out of college?
It's a good question. Here's the problem. You could look across the road, like Justin Ignacio and Jake Falk. I think that Cannon should pick up Jake Falk. He is sitting behind the best face-off man in the world he's not playing unless he gets hurt. Mm-hmm. If I were Quirk, I would constantly find out how can I get Jake Falk. Jake Falk is technically and talented, could be a stud starting faceoff guy in the PLL, even with Matty Palin as the official, because Matty Palin did his upstate games in college. So he understands the cadence. He understands how it's called. That is huge. That would be like being a pitcher growing up with an umpire and knowing that he gives you that outside strike zone, right? So Jake Falk is the most talented faceoff guy in the world not playing in the PLL right now, in my opinion. So he's right there. Now, on top of that, this draft, they're not all the stud faceoff guys aren't going to get drafted.
I know, yeah.
There's too many of them. So once again, going back to my original point, I think they keep their core. They see who's going to retire and who's not. They go into camp and they invite a whole shit ton of undrafted rookies because if you're ever not going to have a first-round pick, it's this year.
Yeah.
And they could find two or three people that can put them over the top and they can become a third or fourth place team in this league.
Agreed.
No, I think that's a great point. And I think just what you said, I think they have the ability with the class that's coming out to maybe slow play the face-off guys and not use a draft pick on it. But yeah, it's super interesting the spot that the Cannons are in. I mean, we've said it. I don't want to beat a dead horse. They didn't lose games by much. They have Lyle. It's very interesting because I don't think it's going to take a huge drastic change to get them over the hump.
No. They have the coaches. They have the players.
Totally.
They just need to manufacture a 2-goal swing in those games, and they're golden.
No, absolutely.
Those 2-goal swings are, yeah.
And that is what that finally wraps up our off-season moves, off-season free agents, our 2 cents of if we were coaches, GMs, what would we do for each of these teams? A little Monday morning quarterback from us, but that's why we get paid the big bucks, fellas.
That's what we do, boys.
We're here for it.
Yeah, and that wraps up the show. Great episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Stay tuned for in the new year. We're gonna touch upon the PLL sixes. We didn't really get into that much today. That's big on the horizon. And then I'm hammering this. I'm pumped for the college season. So make sure you're tuning in. If you're listening on Apple, if you're listening on Spotify, make sure you subscribe and click that download button. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our TorchPro channel. And that's all I have for you, fellas. Anything to finish
Man, I
off
hope you're
with?
listening to this on your drive from New York to Maryland because that was a marathon. I had a good one there, man. That was fun.
That was
fun.
Loved it.
All right, fellas. Take care.
Good one, baby.
Have a good one.